speaking to Giancarlo Italiano, aka Chiefy. And Chiefy, I know you spoke how you were really pleased about getting 4 points on that recent road trip to Australia, but surely getting 4 points against the team in second place, as well as Perth Glory, with starting players, 7 academy players and 6 academy players respectively. How pleasing is that?
Yeah, I was very, very happy. More happy for the boys that played against Macarthur and the boys that followed up and played against Perth as well. I felt as though that was really backs to the wall. The expectation wasn't that that we went into that match as favourites. It was going to be a very difficult game against a very difficult opponent, and I felt as though they actually matched them quite well. I felt as though maybe it could have been a little bit better with the ball, but given the circumstances and Rufa being pulled out last minute and we made some tactical changes, I was really, really happy.
Just you're talking about your academy graduates, and at the start of the season, obviously, sort of you made that investment in academy players, keeping the international signings to virtually zero.
Yep.
How pleasing is that for you as a coach who invested in that?
Personally pleasing for myself and the coaching staff. We've invested a lot of time in those players. We gave them the ability to showcase what they had in pre-season, even though it was probably not at the standard that we wanted at the start. We eventually got them up to speed. And to be fair, I think the success of those players is more due to their mentality than anything else. I think when you come into this environment, certain young players can get overawed by the situation. They find it, they're out of their comfort zone. Usually, when they come from the academy space, they're usually more, the focal point of the teams, whereas when they come into this environment, they're starting from scratch again and they have to prove themselves, and that's actually an obstacle within itself. But a lot of these young boys have shown that they've got the right attitude, the right mentality, and it's a credit to the boys and the work that's been done in the academy space and obviously our coaching staff. Okay,
and we'll get to this Sunday shortly, but I just want to also go back to announcement last week around Tianjin Tiger FC and the sister city, sister club relationship, the memorandum of understanding. How involved were you in that?
Myself? No, I had no involvement. They told me that they were going to have a potential partnership with a club in China. I think that was more, the commercial department that dealt with that. I'm always for those sort of relationships. Any sort of network that we can build not only builds a strong tie for our players, but also for our staff and for our club in general, which is quite healthy. I think having an outreach of a club in Asia is very, very important, and I hope that the club can make further inroads with other clubs, potentially Europe, even South America, or different markets, even like America.
As head coach, could you see the possibility of some players being loaned to play in the China League, or is that sort of not on the cards?
At the moment, I would say no. We have a fairly small squad, so the potential for any loan player probably come from the younger group of players that we have. Whether maybe potentially in the future, once we speak to the club in China and we build good relationship and understand what they're after. But we also have a network of other clubs that we deal with. We've just recently acquired Transfer Room, which is very, very good, a program that allows us to network with a lot of other clubs. But yeah, again, we're at the infancy stage of this relationship, so it's going to take time to flesh out and see what opportunities there are.
Okay, and on to the Sunday, Adelaide United 3 points ahead of second place. Adelaide United, they're a team that form book goes out the window when you play Adelaide United, it seems.
They're a difficult opponent. They have a lot of dangerous players, even with Clough out, who got ruled out yesterday. They have some suspensions as well. They still have Ibuzuki, Irukunda, is a great talent. Kiddo for me is, a very solid left-sided player. And, they have a bit of experience as well with, the Spanish boys as well. So, again, when we played them last game, I felt as though it was one of our better performances overall. We probably gave them some soft goals off the set piece to bring them back into the game, something that we need to be conscious about because they're very, very effective off set pieces as well. But with all games in the A-League, I don't think we've had one easy game all year. Even when West United came here for the last game, they gave us a bit of problems, and when we played them in Ballarat, they were actually very hard to play. So there are no easy games. We go into every game respecting the opponent. I say this every week. It's the beautiful thing about the A-League is that on any given day, I mean, if you even saw with West United, Melbourne Victory the other day, like any team can beat any team, and they were unlucky not to win that game. But up until 95th minute, they were ahead against the top team. So you have to be on in this league.
And how are the Phoenix looking injury-wise? Any injury updates ahead of Sunday?
At the moment, Costa's doing better than expected, so he's close to full training. We're going to monitor him today to see where he's at. So we've included him in the ends. I just don't know how long you'll have for the weekend. Nico Pennington is probably a little bit behind where we wanted him to be in order for him to be back in contention for a starting spot. So we're going to monitor him today, but he might have some involvement in the game. Oz is close to being 100%, so hopefully get some more game time. And I think that's it at the moment. Suts is training fully, which is very good. Cortisone worked and is moving freely, so he might be available to participate in the game on the weekend. And that's it, really.
Okay.
Considering it's the A-League and it's in Australia as well as New Zealand, there's a lot of travel involved. How's the fatigue with the team?
Yeah, that's a really good question because only up until yesterday did I recover from the time differential from Perth. I think the advantage of us going over there for 4 or 5 days prior helped us get through the game, but then we got climatised to their time zone. So when we came back, I think it's the first time I slept in past midday, which is I never do. So that was just me getting used to the time zone again. So it's quite difficult. I think coming back, I think it's underestimated the time zone differential, especially for us and for Perth. I think we lose a day when we come back, whereas it goes the other way for Perth. They kind of gain some time, which is I'd rather that than what we do. But again, not really an excuse because teams travel here as well. They go through it. But when you stay for longer periods of time away from home, it can affect you. But we're over those now.
I mean, you've been the only A-League team in New Zealand. You've got another one starting up shortly.
Yes.
Will that make a difference in terms of the travel and, also the rivalry and all that kind of stuff?
The travel, I don't think it really makes. It probably advantage both teams because we don't actually have to, go across the ditch. In terms of the rivalry, I think it's really good. I think it's healthy. It's really important for the game. I think that if you look at all football across the world, the one characteristics that you notice in all leagues, the biggest matches are all the rivalries. So they have crowds and you have memories and history and for me, I think that's very important. Look, we're still in the infancy in the A-League. If you look at it, we're still, I think, 20 years, not even 20 years in the league. And if you compare that to Europe and South America, where just the very, very start. And if the A-League is to grow, it needs these rivalries. It needs some sort of history that people can reflect on. If you look at the biggest games in the A-League at the moment, it's always the Sydney Derby or the Big Blue. And every year there's always some point of contention and it's always something to talk about. And the fact that all those games are full as well, that's what I really want to see in New Zealand, is when we play Auckland, is when we go to their home ground, we get a full stadium, and when they come here, we get a full stadium as well. And I think that's very healthy for football.
Got a few questions from Victor Waters at TVNZ. After 2 hard-fought games away from home, how much of a boost has it been back at home playing on Sunday?
Yeah, again, I think for us the 12th person is the crowd. So if we can get a nice, healthy crowd to get us through the game, because again, they're going to be a tough opponent. They're going to throw everything at us, and I think what's important is that is that the boys have that focus and that drive to get through, and the next 3-4 games will really determine what happens in the season for us. So playing at home is a massive advantage. Yeah.
With 8 games to go in the regular season, top of the table,
Yeah.
how far away do you feel you are from clinching a place in the finals?
Look, mathematically, I listened to some of the predictions of the coaches and the teams and where they think the 6 or the point margin will lie. Some saying 35, some saying 37, some saying as high as 39 because of the extra game. I think, look, if we get another win or another 3 points, I think that makes it very hard for us, not to be in the 6. But again, our focus is not that we want to be in the 6. Our focus is we want to be the best team that we can be, and have consistent performances and play the football that we know we can. And then I think there's the underlying drive within the group and the motivation is that they want to finish as high as possible, win as many games as they can, perform in the way that we know we can. So again, it's more about for us sticking to those things, and then wherever we finish, we finish.
Is staying top the minor Premiership or the Premiership a goal?
The group internally has made a goal in terms of the amount of wins that they want to get. It's irrespective of where they finish on the table. I think that it's very important that we don't get sidetracked with becoming first, because being first it becomes a distraction that I think if you're just solely focused on the end result as opposed to the process, you can lose your way very quickly, and that builds anxiety, it builds feelings that we can't control. What we control is the football, and I think if we keep along that track, anything is possible with this team. But again, if we keep performing the way we are and we make it very hard for us to be beaten, we will definitely be challenging.
What would it mean for this club to win the Premiership?
Look, it would be historic. It would build legacy. It would build, I think, a sense of excitement not only for the community but football in general, because Wellington hasn't done that before. But again, I don't want to get too sidetracked on what's going to happen in the future. I think it's very, very important that we focus on the now, and that's the only thing that we can control. And I'll keep saying it because it's what's working for us. But if we get in a position where there's a couple of games to go and we can go for that top spot, then we're going to give it everything we can.
And unbeaten, of course, this year, despite series of injuries, players playing out of position. Can you speak to, I suppose, the desire and flexibility of your squad this year?
Well, I think it's more of it definitely is a mentality. I think what we drive for is that, the boys drive their own values, something that they established within themselves at the beginning of the year. They hold very true to it. We've had some uncomfortable conversations with certain players, and they know exactly where they're at. And there's a sense of real honesty within the group in order for us to get the benefit of doing well, right? So we're all on the same page that we want to all better ourselves for the future, and that requires us sacrificing now a lot of things, which is not being focused, like the fact that you come into training every day and you're driven, and it takes a lot of commitment, and again, another core value that holds us well is the togetherness of the group. So if you fuse those things, makes for a good recipe.
And a few from Andrew Vorman stuff as well. You touched on the injury situation, but when it comes to minutes and where the players are ready to start, where's like Oscar Zavada, Houston Salas, Bojale Crive, are they ready to start?
So BK potentially, I would say, is closer to starting than Oz. Oz is still, because he's had 2 injuries now, we have to be very, very mindful of his loading. So that will come with conditioning at training, as well as extra minutes on the park. So for me, that's more of a gradual progression. BK came on against Perth, actually did quite well for half an hour, so I think we can extend his game time, and the same for Houston as well. It's more about integration, small incremental steps, as opposed to loading significant, and then having an injury or a risk of injury spiking, there's a higher chance that there could be injuries. So for me, it's now making sure that we load those players adequately so that that we don't put them at risk, and we're also looking at, having a full strength squad going into the back end of the season.
Yeah, how much are you looking forward to the challenge of selecting a top 11 when everyone is back?
Oh, look, for me, the most important thing is that we have competition within the squad at training, which is very, very healthy. And I'm really happy with the fact that I can rely on everyone at the moment. That shows good sign of a healthy group. I still don't know what my strongest 11 is, if you want me to be honest, because I think every game tactically sets up a different proposition, and some players are better suited to dealing with those problems. So it might be that you'll see different starting 11 every game depending on the situation. But as you know, I'm not one that likes to make a lot of changes. So I like consistency. I believe in cohesion. I believe in team chemistry, and I think that's fundamentally a part of why we're winning games at the moment.
Cool. Now you've seen a bit of Houston up close. Just finally, what do you consider his best position?
It's a good question. I think it's more of a hybrid situation where you're probably looking at either one of those sixes roles or an attacking sort of right-sided tens. Even though he can play fullback, we have Payne there at the moment who's doing a really good job. So even the game against Perth, I felt as though when he came on, he had the ability to cover the ground and find the attacking players quite well. So I gave him a bit more freedom on that side. It's a tough question because, again, it also depends on who we're playing. So sometimes I might position him a little bit wider than what we usually put our sixes, and then there's sometimes where I might put him a little bit more advanced because he'll give us a little bit more energy. So that's the beauty of, I think, a lot of our players, is that they can play across a number of positions that once I ask them, once I ask to do a certain job, they do it. So it's a good problem to have.